6:31, I call this meeting to order and turn things over to Kristen.
Thank you. Can you all see my screen okay? Okay, so at the last meeting, the board directed me to come to this meeting with a list of potential cuts. You know, there had been discussion about the budget that was presented and for ways for the board to see what cuts would look like, the numbers and the percentages. I want to be clear. I in no way, shape or form am promoting this as the way that we should be moving forward. I believe that the budget that I have presented to you is what we need to maintain our school system as it is today. It is a no frills budget. There are no new additions to the budget. It is simply to open the doors and keep moving forward with the staff and the programs that we have today. Chris has a question.
Yeah, just a point of order. I believe we skipped public comment.
We did. I'm sorry. You're right. Andrew, you want to ask that?
Yeah, I'm seeing that is on there. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment this evening? Usual 3-minute limitation. Anyone at all? Thank you, Chris, for pointing this out.
Thank you.
Last chance. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So again, as I was saying, I in no way am advocating for this. I'm presenting to you what was asked. So the first grouping, and this is in no particular order. This is just by way of sharing things that are not necessarily required, but I think are essential for a positive, rich, robust learning environment for all students. The first one is middle school sports at BCS. We know for a fact that sports improve academic performance. They provide opportunities for regular exercise, which is important for the overall health and well-being of our students, opportunities to learn to work with others, to learn to work as a team, which is an essential life skill, fostering strong sense of confidence, self-confidence, building relationships with others, having an expanded capacity for empathy. It teaches time management in middle school, decision-making, communication, athletic prowess, and leadership skills. The overall cost, total cost for middle school sports is $42,856. It represents a 0.27% reduction to the overall budget ask. So I think what I'd like to do is go through all of this and then maybe take questions. Would that be okay? Okay. Next would be extracurricular offerings at BCS. Again, this increases engagement in school. It develops life skills with social development, teamwork, leadership, and cooperation. It improves brain function, concentration, time management, stamina, all which can lead to better performance in the classroom. And it also provides opportunities for our students to discover unique personal interests that they might not have even known that they had. And this pursuit can determine potential future career and volunteer pathways. The cost for extracurricular offerings at Bolton Center School is $18,942, which represents a 0.12% reduction to the budget. And you can see there the list of various extracurricular offerings that happen at Bolton Center School. Next are sports at the high school. Again, a lot of the similar impacts that they have for our students, the same as middle school. But I also think, you know, at the high school level, it's a deeper commitment to sports. It really builds a foundation for lifelong fitness. It expands a better understanding of self and how an individual's actions affect others. It really provides our athletes an opportunity to understand their own personal limitations and really discover how their own choices affect them and their teammates, and to really help them gain a better understanding of themselves, as I shared. It certainly makes our athletes more marketable to colleges and employers, as they want people who can perform under stress and follow a collegiate and/or business plan of action. It instills in our athletes a success mindset. It includes time management, creativity, and finding ways to improve, strong focus and concentration development, internal skills for handling pressure, learning when to take risks, and taking responsibility. Provides opportunities to embrace life lessons of practice, persistence, and patience, and increases confidence and self-esteem. The overall cost of athletics at Bolton High School is $213,134. It is a 1.40 reduction to the overall budget ask. And you can see the expenses that it includes, as well as the numerous sports that are offered at Bolton High School for both boys and girls. Next, our our extracurricular offerings at the high school. Again, same thing, right? It's about engagement in school, life skills, improving brain function, concentration, time management, and stamina for better performance in the classroom. Opportunities to discover a range of interests and unlock passions, increase self-confidence and self-esteem, and leading to positive long-term outcomes, which is documented by research. The total cost for that at the high school for extracurricular offerings is $55,400, or a 0.36% reduction to the budget. And you see there the list of the numerous extracurricular activities that are offered at the high school, and it's quite impressive for a small high school. It goes on to the next page, and it includes a vast array of offerings for our students. So the total cost for both athletics and after-school activities for BCS and BHS is $330,332, for a total of a 2.18 reduction to the budget ask. Next are programs and positions. The first is teacher at center school, which would in fact increase class sizes in elementary classrooms. That is a 0.43% reduction to the budget ask. An additional teacher at the middle school would mean the elimination of world language in grades 7 and 8. I want to remind the board that in last year's budget, we lost world language in grades 5 and 6. This would be an additional 0.66% reduction to the budget ask. Another teacher would again increase class sizes in the elementary school at Bolton Center School, and it would be a 0.343% reduction to the budget ask. A teacher at the high school would be the elimination of class offerings, including AP and ECE at Bolton High School. That would be a 0.50% reduction to the budget ask. A teacher, again, at the high school, same thing. This would be a 0.42% reduction. Again, a teacher at the high school, same thing, a 0.46 reduction to the budget. And lastly, another teacher position at Bolton Center School, which would be a 0.80% reduction to the budget. These positions total $569,844, or a 3.76% reduction to the budget. These, along with extracurricular offerings, both athletics and extracurricular, have direct and monumental impact to the education that we provide to the students of the town of Bolton. The grand total for all of this would be $900,176, which would be a 5.94% reduction to the budget ask. Questions? I can't see you and keep it up at the same time, so either one of my administrators has to see if there's questions and I can keep it up. It's whatever your preference is.
I'll ask a question. So I understand, because we're the ones who asked you to prepare this for us, that it's not a list of cuts that you are recommending we make right now. Am I correct in thinking that this is really illustrating a worst case scenario, that if the Board of Finance and the town decided to knock our budget down to where it has been roughly on average the last 10 years, these are the magnitude of cuts that would be necessary in order to achieve a budget of around 1.5% increase, or a budget with a 1.5% increase approximately. Is that a correct way to understand these reductions?
That is a very correct way to understand these. The only other thing that I want to say to that question is that health insurance number is still unknown for us. As I shared last time, we have budgeted 12%. Right now, right to Andrew's point, they're saying potentially 8 to 10%, but that could change in another month. And we learned that lesson the hard way last year. So we made a strategic decision this year to stay at the lower end of the original range they gave us, which was 12 to 14%. Originally, Casal and I had budgeted for 14%. We dropped it to 12 before the budget was presented to you. So, and again, we won't know that until May for certain. So potentially that could be some savings, but it's not going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. If we're lucky, we will get some savings. So I just wanted that on the record also. So that's not a surprise should that come to fruition.
Right, but even if we get lucky and it's an 8% increase, that's only going to save us what, 200,000 at most?
Maybe 100,000.
Probably not even that. Yeah.
100,000 maybe.
Okay.
Right. So this is, the level of dismantling of public education in Bolton that will take place if the Board of Education, let's say, were to approve this budget as is, and if the Board of Finance and/or the taxpayers reduce this budget drastically, as has happened, previously, this is the type of cuts we are looking at. And it impacts every single kid in one way or another.
To that end, yeah, obviously it's going to impact every student that takes a class during the day, but they're still going to be taking classes. I think I appreciate that the effort you put into this. I think as we hold these for argument's sake, understanding how many students participate in the extracurricular activities, what percentage of the student body, 100% would be affected by academics, reduction in offerings and stuff like that. But as I seem to recall, like for the high school, from previous presentations on those types of, that it's almost 100% participation, at least by numbers, if not unique individuals, that would be penalized. It's a punitive thing against that experience as well. And it's not like it's 20% of the population, it's the population. That
Correct.
It would be an important piece of that story, I think.
Agreed. And I can certainly add that to it for sure. That's a great point. Thank you, Scott.
I have a question.
So if my math is correct, if we took this whole thing, our and did nothing else to the budget, it would result in approximately a 1% increase over last year's budget.
Correct.
So. And the average has been like 1.5%, like Chris said, over the last 10 years. So that is massive.
Mhm. It is. I think Rhea had a question. Rhea, right? Did I hear you?
Yes, yeah, yes. What is the class size for elementary school, and what would you be raising it to?
So it varies from grade to grade, anywhere between 16 and 20, 21 right now. So we're looking at class sizes of 25 and up, which is not something we have ever. I think we had 1 year where we had some pretty high class sizes in I believe it was kindergarten, and we ended up putting paraprofessionals into those 2 kindergarten classrooms, and that was in a year where we had some pretty rough budget cuts. And the board members may recall that were on the board then, we did hear from a number of kindergarten parents with great concerns, which is why we did some moving around and made some changes and got additional support in those classrooms.
I think that if at least parents saw these potential cuts, they would freak out. Really, I think that there'd be a lot more attention. I think this is really a great exercise, actually, because I think they should know ahead of time. I wish more people had attended this meeting. I don't know what we should be doing in terms of maybe presenting some of these to the public. How would we do that?
So I always present the board's budget to the PTA.
Mhm.
That's something and that has been done in the past. I will be sending out a communication once the board makes a determination about their budget this evening, at some point next week, about the board's budget, about what it entails, about potential, if the board doesn't make cuts tonight, about this list and this information. I need to put that together for parents to understand, where things are at, and to let them know when the meeting dates are and when the public hearing is for the budget.
Kristen, a follow-up, if I may.
Yes.
I know in past years, we've been able to meet the inevitable cuts to our proposed budget, often through savings, because we've hired new staff at, maybe we hire a brand new teacher rather than to replace somebody who's been teaching for 20 years, or somebody comes in and doesn't take health insurance when we have to budget for them to take family insurance. And so we realize savings in that way. Are you able to project based on our current, I believe we're fully staffed at the moment. So
Almost.
based on what you know about our current staffing and who's retiring, what are the prospects for similar savings next year from?
At this point in time, we have no one who has indicated that they are retiring. And they have to let me know that by December 1st, unless it's extenuating circumstances. So we have 0 retirements in the hopper, if you will, that we know that we can plan on, where, to your point, right? So that person is going out likely at the top step. And we might be budgeting for, like, say, Masters 6 or Masters 8. I mean, or at top step, depending upon the position, but we don't even have that situation this year. We've hired a lot of new staff over the last several years. And, we've been in a situation for the last 3 years during the pandemic where we were not fully staffed. And although it appeared that we weren't using well, we weren't using all of our salary and benefits monies that had been appropriated, but that was because we were not fully staffed. And to your point, changes were made. People retired or people left, and then we made changes, and there were changes that happened as a result of that. But I have no way to forecast that for next year because we have 0 retirements.
But at the very least, unlike in past years, the chance that there could be such savings
Is nil.
doesn't look very good right now.
Right. It does not look promising for certain. Yes, that's a great point.
Hey, this is Chris Duffy. Could I make a comment?
Public comment portion of the meeting has passed. Unfortunately, it's just for board members at this time. There'll be more meetings.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just in support of reaching out to the parents in some way. So I'll bring it up next time. Thank you.
Hey, Chris, feel
Thank
free to, if you want, Chris, feel free to send me an email and you and I can connect. Okay.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
So Kristen, you're saying, I just want to, as far as class size goes, that the class size would, I mean, if a teacher's cut, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't be able to provide a number now because it would depend on which teachers you cut, right? It wouldn't be across the board class cuts. I mean, it looked like it was pretty much across the board.
Well, depending upon, what level of cuts there are, Rhea, right? It's both
Right.
an increase in class sizes at the elementary level. It's
Right.
potential loss of middle school world language. It's a loss of classes and electives and AP courses and ECE,
Right.
right,
right.
at the high school. So, and an increase in class sizes at the high school, depending upon what takes place.
And for class sizes, you can't say, well, we'll just put a few more kids in each class. You won't lose it won't really make the numbers work. They'd have to be chunks bigger.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Right.
Exactly.
So for example, right, if we have an elementary grade level right now that has 50 students in it, but right now we have 3 sections. So we have nice small class sizes.
Mhm.
But if you take away a position in that grade level, you're looking at 25 students in a classroom.
Right.
Kristen, what would, if we do end up having to cut world language in 7th and 8th grade, what would replace that for those students?
I'm going to let Daryl speak to that, Chris. Thank you. That's a great question.
Great question, Chris. We always look at different things each year, and if we had to reduce by a period, it would make other periods longer. So we would have the current offerings would go from like 45 minutes to 52 minutes. So we'd absorb the time in different ways. So some classes would, yeah, it's something you have to be thinking of all the time. And so we have a plan if we had to do that.
Again, we're not advocating for that, but we have had a lot of discussions about, how these potential reductions will have impact across the board and what could we possibly do? Thank you, Daryl.
I think we're all sort of shocked at the scope of what we're looking at, and that was sort of the point of, what are the possibilities, which is why we sort of asked for a list of what it would look like if we had no increase at all. And this list does not even get us to no increase. it's impossible to say, and I know usually in most years the Board of Finance is looking for us to say, you know, what specific things or would we cut, and it's impossible to say for us because all of these numbers don't fall into place until months from now. The insurance numbers, for instance, we don't find out who might be leaving to go to other schools for multiple months. There's a lot of factors in play, and we don't want to say definitively that we're going to cut this or that until we have a final increase and we have final numbers as far along as we can into the process. This was meant, as we said, we need, no matter what we do, even if we reduce something tonight, if we go to the Board of Finance, we'll say, well, this is what we're looking at. You know, that was the point. If we go to the PTA, you know, this is what we're looking at, and this is what's going to happen if we don't get the vote out, we don't get the budget increase that we need. So I don't know how we want to proceed here. My feeling on the general number is that even with the shocking possibilities, it's hard to imagine the Board of Finance granting us this entire increase, and it's even harder to imagine the town doing it because it's certainly out of line with what they've been doing. And we know everybody is feeling the pinch right now, and we know people are hurting, and when they see these kind of numbers and what it's going to mean to them, their pocketbook, especially those who don't have kids in the school system, it's not likely to go forward. So I don't know how we're doing as a town. We have the town side of things is unknown to us at this time entirely. They have the same insurance problems that we do. You know, we're all hoping townwide that those insurance numbers do end up lower, and that'll help absorb some of this. But we also have the fact that we have returned very significant sums of money in the past, so we're not going to be in a position to do that this year. I don't know what on the town side, you know, and usually the process goes along and we say, oh, well, we're looking at a little bit extra money here, a little bit extra money there. But right now, things certainly don't look good. So I don't know what we want to do as a board. We certainly have an argument with these kinds of ideas on the table that if any year we need an increase, it's this year. But I just don't know. You know, part of me says, oh, we're wasting time even talking about these kinds of numbers because I don't think it's ever going to go through with the town. But do we go forward to the Board of Finance with our request and let them cut us, or let them go to the town and see how bad it is? I mean, last year it was excruciating. It lasted months. We had referendum after referendum, and we ended up with a very low increase. So, like, are we going to be, as a town, including the Board of Finance, looking to have, you know, go out there and try to make this point? I guess the communicating of the impacts is the key, and this has been a problem in the past. And you know, we have a more active PTA this year, so hopefully the word can get out among the parents. You know, I don't know, it's hard to say what percentage of school-aged parents went out and voted in each referendum last year. You know, as it dragged on into the summer, people start disappearing. So getting the word out is the key, and this is an illustration that we've not had in the past of the real impacts, because all of a sudden, like last year, we cut this foreign language position, which we couldn't even find a person for anyway, and we got negative pushback about it. So, you know, this at least puts us out front saying, you know, something's going to happen, and you know, it's just a question of how much. But we do have to pass a budget of some kind to bring forward to the Board of Finance tonight. So I don't know how other board members are feeling about this. You know, these list of possibilities is impossible. Like with class sizes, you know, I was looking at our enrollment. We got 49, 58, 49, 57, 46, 61. Those are our class sizes at the elementary level right now. Yeah, if we had to reduce section numbers, it would probably come out of one of the upper 40s and not the mid 50s. But it's just impossible to say with juggling people around right now. So I guess this is a shocking presentation of possibilities, but where does the board feel that we want to go to the Board of Finance with? That's the question that we need answered right now.
Well, yeah, I guess for myself, I don't think I could support a number lower than what the superintendent has presented, because I see my role on the Board of Ed as advocating for the needs of our students. And I believe Superintendent Hecht has made a very good case that what is included in this budget is what is necessary to maintain the current level of services to our students. And if, you know, we may not end up at that percentage increase, and I think we're all aware of that, but at least at this stage, I feel I would have to support what the superintendent has indicated is necessary for education to continue as it currently is in Bolton. So that's where I would propose we start, I guess.
Hi, this is Sue. I am also concerned about cutting this budget, given how drastic those cuts would be. And with time, things could change, as we've experienced. And I think a huge piece of it this year should be and needs to be educating the townspeople about why this budget is so high. But I think cutting it at this point is only going to make the situation worse.
I believe that we should use this budget as start with this budget and just see how it's received. And I also agree with Sue that we should have an education program for the citizens of Bolton, and especially the parents. So I'm not sure that they all came out to vote the first times based on the numbers and the results. So I do think that's another component that's we really I don't think maybe we haven't done it adequately in the past. I know that Superintendent Hecht, you've talked to the PTA, but maybe a presentation with, what these cuts would look like and how they'll impact, and make sure that all the parents are hearing this. Because if these cuts were made, and there would be tremendous pushback, and parents would be very upset by all those cuts, and it would be too late. It would be too late to do anything about it. So we need to be very proactive here, I think, in educating people.
Ria, I agree. I just want to remind the board, though, that there is a point at which we cannot communicate any longer. So while I can certainly share, like you said, and I agree, I think that's an important idea with the PTA, and I'm certain that I will hear from Mr. Duffy. I'm certain he probably has some really good ideas about communication as well, potentially with high school parents and maybe all parents. And I'd be open to hearing from anybody else who's in attendance tonight as well. But there is a point where we cannot communicate anymore. So I think it is also going to be incumbent upon both the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen to also get information out.
That point is after the budget's been adopted and presented to the town, right?
Correct. It's after they've set the, correct, after they've set. the budget.
So it's not, during the Board of Finance budget deliberations and everything, it's
Correct.
still in our purview to advocate.
Yes,
So it's not today. It's not,
correct.
it's the first round of people might be making cuts. We're still able to get muster support wherever we feel we can get.
Correct. And I do think it's important, to that point, right? Once you've decided on a budget this evening, to then, I will work with Andrew to craft the messaging that will go out next week to make people aware of the board's budget and, the potential impact if cuts are made, and as well as when the meeting dates are for the Board of Finance. And I will be sharing that with the PTA and any other parent group that is willing to have me.
Is it appropriate to show the work that Chris did and presented last at the board meeting? Because I think that's very important information to present to the Board of Finance. And I think it would, bolster
Mhm.
our position.
I agree. And I reached out to Chris, I don't know, either, I think maybe that night after he shared that information. I'm going to be working collaboratively with Andrew and with Chris, because he's the one that did all that research, to make sure that we share that appropriately in the board's presentation to the Board of Finance. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a lot of great information. I think it really helps paint the picture about that we're not overspending and that we're not doing more than is absolutely necessary. It's the part of the bare bones message, and the combination of that research with the potential impacts that we've viewed tonight, I think is shocking and persuasive, and getting that message out, I think is what's important.
Would you like a motion to approve the budget? Are we at that point yet? That was a question for you, Andrew.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, unless I think you and Maria and would give the statement that Chris made, which is our role is that we are to be the supporters of education and promoters of education. So, if we need to go in supporting the budget that is going to keep things the way they are and not take anything away. So, Scott or Ben want to say anything or opine on?
No, I'm in general agreement. I agree with you that there's no way we'll ever get this totally approved. But I don't think it's in our best interest, school's best interest, to make partial cuts now as if those aren't painful. And then we'd only be, looking at, some more maybe not so painful cuts later. I think there's no one cut that isn't going to be really painful. So I don't think making an attempt at, because again, the salaries and benefits and the special ed essentially is 95% of the increase. There is nowhere else to cut. So it's people. Even in those programs, the after school programs, it's cutting the advisors out of those positions. It's people that is the reason why those programs can't, so it's cutting people. And I don't think making a bunch of little cuts now is the right thing to do. I think showing the full impact of why we are where we are is probably most important at this point.
I also agree with supporting the budget as it is with no cuts. I have a concern that, when we reach the point that we were talking about where Kristen can't communicate with, the town anymore, that people aren't going to know what specifically is going to get cut until after it's cut. And then we're going to hear an uproar after the fact. Naturally. Same thing happened when we, cut the foreign languages in 5th and 6th grade. So, I can just see that happening.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I would
think-
definitely support.
I think a lot of the, based on the fact that, it's the Board of Finance that's going to make the first cut to this. And we are still able to say what that would mean. I think we can still, we can make it evident what those cuts will mean. I think, am I right, Kristen? There's if the Board of Finance goes in with, a huge axe on this, then when it goes to the town, we already know that, okay, there's 5 teachers or there's whatever the impact of that is.
Mhm.
So,
And I would say to that point, Scott, certainly, and to the point that Ben was making, is that, this is now a public document. And this is a document that I think that we should include once the ads are in there, about the participation numbers and, potential numbers for class sizes and what that might look like. I can certainly add that in, but to also include that in our packet of information that goes to the Board of Finance, as well as the packet of information, right, that is shared on the website.
right. If I thought that we were adding things into the budget that, that I would say that we shouldn't do that. But if we're not, we're just keeping the doors open the way we opened them this year, then, I don't see how we, and any cut we would make we would never make it a significant enough cut to impact the shock value of this anyway. So that's why I think I would support sending it through as recommended.
Does anyone else want to add anything? I'm hearing that we're all pretty much on the same page, and that was a good point that Scott made, that, even if we were to make a reduction, it doesn't really change the overall picture and shock value and what everyone else is going through.
Yeah, it's just going to make it look like some cuts are easier than the others, and they're not. So.
Well, if no one else wants to add anything, then we can go forward with the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's proposed budget for fiscal year 2024 in the amount of $16,202,060, or an increase of 6.88% over the current year's budget.
This is Sue. I second it.
Thank you, Chris and Sue. Is there any more questions or comments about this motion anyone would like to make? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstaining? I think I heard everyone. Okay, well, we have a proposed budget to send to the Board of Finance, and we will be working on a message and an argument that this is valid and necessary. And I don't think we have anything else, so we'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a
I'd
motion.
like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ben and Rhea. Questions, comments? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed or abstaining? All right. Thank you, everyone, for your consideration and your thoughtfulness, and to be continued.